On September 26, 2008, a man named Anthony Curcio is sitting at his laptop at home writing an ad on Craigslist. He claims to need laborers, offering $28 per hour for the job. In the ad, he instructs workers to meet him beside the Bank of America on the morning of September 30th and provides detailed clothing requirements: jeans, a blue shirt, work shoes, and a yellow safety vest. They are also told to bring safety goggles and a painter's mask. But this is no ordinary job listing. For months, Curcio has been carefully watching the Brinks armored truck as it makes its deliveries to the Bank of America branch in Monroe. However, his focus isn't on the truck itself, but on what it carries inside. He wants to rob it, but Curcio knows that a straightforward getaway won't work since there are too many cameras and witnesses will see him in such a public area. Instead, he needs a way to vanish with no trace. While scouting the area, Curcio discovers a creek behind the bank that could serve as an escape route. At first, he considers using a jet ski, but the water is too shallow. So, he decides to come back every night, digging the creek for 4 to 8 hours a day to make it fit a jet ski. Of course, soon he realizes this isn't realistic and changes his plan. Instead of making the creek fit the vehicle, he decides to make the vehicle fit the creek. He settles on using an inner tube, which will allow him to float downstream. But just floating downstream won't be enough. He needs to escape fast, so he arranges for someone to be his driver and to wait at the exact spot where he will exit the creek. Curcio wakes up at 5 a.m., brushes his teeth, and makes himself breakfast. He puts on the exact outfit he instructed the workers to wear in his Craigslist ad. When ready, he heads to the bank. Upon arrival, he sees about 25 people, all dressed exactly as instructed in the ad. They have no idea what's about to happen because Curcio is using them as bait. After about 5 minutes of waiting with the crowd, the armored truck is heard approaching from the left side of the bank. It makes a right turn and parks near the entrance. A guard steps out. He goes to the back of the truck and opens the back doors, unloading the money for delivery to the bank. Curcio waits, watching closely. When the guard walks toward the bank with the money, Curcio sprints toward him, pepper spraying him in the face. The guard collapses, and Curcio grabs the money, which is more than $450,000, and runs to the creek at the back of the bank. By now, the police have been alerted. Within 6 minutes, the area is swarming with officers. Everyone is panicking, and neither the workers nor the police can process what just happened. But there's an even bigger problem. The crowd of workers around the bank looks exactly like the suspect. At the creek, Curcio finds the inner tube he planted earlier. He tosses the cash inside, removes his disguise, and climbs into the tube, floating approximately 180 meters downstream to the prearranged pickup spot. When he reaches it, his getaway driver is waiting. Curcio gets out of the tube, opens the car, and loads the money inside before fleeing the scene with his driver.
So where does a thief with $400,000 go?
Las Vegas.
That's right. Instead of laying low, Curcio heads to the Palms Hotel in Sin City. And sin he did, cheating on Emily, throwing money around with another woman. But after a night of sex, drugs, and a Britney Spears concert, Curcio's conscience got the better of him.
The investigation stalls. Authorities have little to go on. They find discarded clothing by the creek and manage to collect DNA from the robber's mask. But without a suspect to compare it to, the DNA leads nowhere. It looks like Curcio's plan has worked. During this time, Curcio rents a big penthouse and several luxury cars, including a Lamborghini Murcielago and a Porsche Cayman. It's heaven on earth, but things are about to change. It's nighttime, and Curcio is inspecting the bank as usual. A homeless man spots him. Wearing a mask and gloves, Curcio is retrieving something from the trash bins. Suspicious, the man writes down the license plate of his car. Unbeknownst to Curcio, he's just made a huge mistake with serious consequences.
I thought, well, maybe if he's homeless, maybe he's been drinking, maybe he's not going to remember my description.
Now he was a crucial witness, and Buzz and Hatch needed to find him to help them nail Curcio. But how do you find a witness with no address?
I went to a McDonald's and I bought 10 regular hamburgers, and I started handing out hamburgers to homeless people, asking if they knew a guy named Alan.
In tiny Monroe, there was only one place you would take hamburgers to find a homeless guy: Tent City.
6 hamburgers later, I found a tent with a guy named Alan.
So now you have 4 hamburgers left. And what happens when you reach Alan's tent?
You know, you can't really knock on the door of a tent, but I just said, "Alan, are you in there? It's the police." And he responded with, "It's about time you got here."
The FBI gets a tip from the homeless man and traces the car's license plate to Anthony Curcio, as it is registered under his real name. From that point on, they begin a full-blown sting operation and follow him everywhere. Bars, restaurants, even while he's at home. One night, an undercover agent is following Curcio's car when Curcio takes a turn and decides to stop at a gas station. The FBI agent follows. Curcio steps out of the car, enters the gas station, stands for a bit, and opens a fridge, picking up a cold soda. He goes to the counter, pays with a $5 bill, and exits the station. Outside, he opens the soda and drinks it slowly while smoking a cigar. When he finishes, he tosses the can in the trash and returns to his car, driving off. Once Curcio is gone, the agent retrieves the soda can and sends it for DNA testing. The results come back positive and confirm Curcio as the robber. Now it's only a matter of time before he is caught. Now, even if Curcio hadn't left evidence behind, like his clothes for DNA or using his personal car, which allowed the police to track him down, it wouldn't have mattered because his driver turns out to be an informant and gives him up anyway. Had he driven alone and gotten rid of the clothes later, and making sure not to be as careless during the scouting phase, things could have turned out very differently. On January 2nd, while Curcio is in Lake Stevens, Washington, stepping out of a luxury SUV, police surround him, pointing guns at him, and arrest him. They find $117,000 in cash at his apartment, stashed in shoeboxes. He is later sentenced to 6 years in prison.
Released from prison just 10 weeks ago, Anthony Curcio, the once local football hero, returned home to the small, quiet town of Monroe. Now, instead of crime, he has family on his mind.
See how high you can get.
I had justified that I was doing this for my family. But you know what? Someone that's doing that for their family would have not gambled with them and lost 5 years of not being around them.
You felt like you gambled with them.
Yeah. And you should never gamble with something you're not willing to lose.